Greetings, everyone. It's Alaya Ketani, and this is We Are Our Superhero podcast. This podcast is dedicated to highlighting experiences in which we have had to become our own superhero. We've had to release and expand beyond societal imposed and parental, cultural, ancestral programming and conditioning, sometimes to save our own life. I'm your host and creator of the podcast, and I'm here engaging with my friend Mark, who I've known for a period of years. This is the introductory episode, part 2. So if you didn't hear part 1, feel free to grab that one and listen to it. We're continuing along the theme right now of realizing that we are capable of far more than the minimizing programs that we're given growing up and in our society. So thank you, Mark, for joining me again. I appreciate it so much. We were at a certain point in our conversation, yes?
Okay, yes. So here you are. You decided to go on the road in a van. You're in your early 30s. You're this attractive, blonde-haired woman. It's unheard of, or very few women decide to do that. This was what you said 40 years ago. And you must have had some realizations that, and some challenges and experiences that had you have to face those parts that were in the way of you emerging into your own hero and then into your superhero. Can you identify any particular things or challenges or experiences that had you a demarcation point from one place of, let's just call it more ordinary, into another place of extraordinary hero?
A really interesting question. And first, when I took off in the van, I was 29. From the environment in which I was raised, realizing again, reminder that this household was in war. It was violent. It was terrifying. I was a very sensitive little girl. Um, uh, had a lot of in-depth experiences that were beyond this 3D world, not really knowing how to interpret a lot of my own sensitivity. But the message I did get growing up was that I was not lovable. It was very hard to love me. My father would explode. My mother was very critical and needy. They were, as we know, our parents do our best. But the message to me was that I was very hard to love. And I did not feel loved. And even though as I grew into this adult woman and was getting a lot of attention, now having been in LA, going to UCLA and graduate, I was getting a lot of attention, but it wasn't loving attention. And so when I took off in the van, I realized a lot. I realized my own strength. There were certainly times of great fear. I mean, I was traveling by myself in the middle of nowhere. Sometimes everybody was coming down the mountain and I was the only one going up. And I was thinking, what do they know that I don't know? I mean, sometimes I'd be at an intersection and I go left or right. I mean, dirt roads. And I would just hear within myself, it doesn't matter. Just have faith and turn left or right. So in that trip, I started to feel a peeling away of what is absolutely right, what is absolutely wrong, how we guide ourselves in life, how faith really works within my own self, not from any type of doctrine, but put to that day by day example, and then having people from all over the world coming and talking to me and recognizing insights through them, wondering why are they all drawn to me, and learning a lot from their lives and stories. But as life went on, there was this congregate of experiences where I wasn't prepared for life. I wasn't taught even the basics. My father had wanted to teach me some of the really hard, cold facts that he held as truth. But my mother was grooming me to marry a rich man. And so it wasn't about getting a job or learning any of those facts of life. It was about ballet and piano and horses. So I was pretty much flung into life. My mother had died. My father was someone that I was choosing to stay away from for my own sense of safety. And stuff was happening. I mean, I had a stalker after me. I was living in a building with a murderer. When I was in the Silicon Valley working, I was part of a mass corporate shootout where several people were shot and killed, and I was there. There were earthquakes. I was living on powdered food substitute because I was trying to make a career the honest way. And I had mentioned in the other episode that I had several careers in my 20s. Well, I kept jumping around because they kept trying to pimp me at every company that I worked at. So I was finding myself feeling like I was just bouncing off the walls from one difficult event to another difficult event. And this continued. It's continued for a period of time where this particular older, much more street savvy man had made himself known to me. I had spent some time dating him. There were other interactions with him. And at times it seemed like he was the answer man. He had all the answers I needed. And it also seemed like finally there was someone where I didn't have to be the strong one, where everyone came and cried on my shoulder. He offered his shoulder. The only problem was he had all the answers, but they weren't the right answers. And they weren't the right answers for me. And he was not a man of integrity, a man of goodness towards others. He had studied the con. He saw women as evil to be used. So I had really become ensnared with someone who, if I was able to get him to love me, would prove to me that I was lovable. After all these years, I was drawn to one of the hardest individuals to cause to love me because, first of all, it wasn't going to happen. And I learned that as time went on because this person was, he was a very, very harmful person. And he was very manipulative. He had studied cult programming, and I was caught in a very complex psychological matrix with him. I recognized partway through, actually towards the latter years before I came here, I recognized in a hypnotherapy session, which is one of the reasons why I specialize in 7 forms of hypnosis. I realized that I remembered that I had made this commitment when I was a little girl watching my parents at war. And I had said to myself, I will never be in a situation like that. I realized that I've now put myself in a much, much worse situation, that my life was in danger. I had had a critical car crash. This person had become violent. I was isolated and entrapped in this property in the country that I had bought and developed. And that's when I realized, oh, it takes someone this extreme to love me for me to actually believe that I'm lovable. And between that
Wow.
and the hypnotherapy session where I actually called in my mother and she gave me a very clear message and helped me recognize what was happening, that I realized I needed to form an escape plan. And it took a lot. It took several months. I was in very bad shape. I had caregivers from the state. I was in a lot of pain, a lot of trauma. And there's a lot of details to that story that I won't go into. But I finally realized I will never have this person acknowledge or show me that I am lovable, because as Someone once said to me, you can't get blood out of a stone, right? So there was this awakening, and part of that awakening was a period of time when, after this car crash, I actually couldn't speak. I would hear
Mm,
words in my head, but no words would come out of my mouth. And when I started to be able to speak, I was questioning what everybody was saying. I was carrying around a dictionary because it seemed like the way people were speaking and engaging each other, it was like everybody was operating on assumptions. Like, I'm assuming I understand you, you're assuming you understand me. Nobody's really connecting. And it was like unloading all this programming massively while I was in this horrendous situation, this crisis. Um, Interestingly, once time went on, I had 2 emergency surgeries. The time for the escape plan came. I came over the mountains. And the interesting thing is, in the first week here, I met a man who was also new here, and he served a really good purpose. We were immediately drawn to each other. He had just come from certain circumstances. I had just come from that. And it was like my feet weren't even touching the ground. I was so happy. It was like free at last, like post-slave syndrome, a friend called it. But after dating this man for just like maybe it was a month, one day, just spontaneously out of his mouth, he said, I love you. And I said, what? And he said, I love you. I just can't help it. You're just so lovable. And I'm sure my mouth just dropped. This was the first time anybody was telling me that I was so lovable, that I was actually so easy. He said, I don't want to, but I can't help it. You're just so lovable. And it was so enlightening to realize this was the first time in my life. Now, I was 48 when I came here, that I actually heard that I was lovable, that I was so easy to love.
mm,
And that all these years in my own way, I'd been trying to get other people to validate that. And in a split second, it had just been validated, but that was within me the whole time. I just needed all these experiences to come to the point of life or death. And through that life or death, recognize that I have so much power. I have so many resources internally. I am a timeless being who can call on so many aspects of life. And it took 4 years for me to get through that crisis and come over the mountain here, only to have the news that I had been needing since I was first born, and that is I am lovable,
mm,
right? So it was, for me, it was the combination of all these things that unloaded a fair amount of programming. It's an ongoing process for everyone, and enabled life to actually tell me that I was lovable in a way that now would be undeniable to me. Maybe
mm,
if someone had told me that earlier, I wouldn't have been able to believe it. But
mhm,
after everything I experienced, now I knew it was true, that I am lovable. I'm even adorable, right? I'm even wonderful. I'm even admirable. I'm my own superhero. Now, I've had other people, mostly women from my nonprofit, tell me I'm their hero. But here's the thing, everything that I do, you can do too. And that's the point. That's the point of this program, teaching women the components, the skills, and the practices in your daily life and in crisis. But before crisis, I call it learning to swim before you're drowning, so that you recognize that you are your own superhero and you have true confidence that's grounded in a recognition of who and what, how we're truly created, how we're designed. It's our blueprint. And in that is the greatest love and the greatest true empowerment and confidence and assurance and wisdom and everything else that we need. And once we are exposed to that knowledge, then it's a matter of walking through life and recognizing when to use it, so that the cause and effect that will still happen in life won't be so severe. as what I experienced. I experienced many very severe causes and effects that led me to this point now, and the offering of what I've learned to those who choose to accept that invitation.
So, Alea, one day you're tooling down the road. You have this guy that you're dating for a few weeks, a month, I think you mentioned. He comes out of nowhere and says he loves you. There's something in you that ignites and shifts big time. Now, we all know that all the qualities are already there, but there was something that you built up to, and at this point was like the breaking point for you to actually let go of probably that place that you didn't think you were lovable. Many people, when they have such a breakthrough, they also experience the other qualities that they have that were inaccessible to be much more accessible. So, for example, for me, it was finally forgiving myself for something that I thought I was responsible for that I never was. And there was a level of self-love in that. And then the trust and faith came. There was a level of humility that I never had to grab a hold of that was also available. And on it went with the basic qualities that we're all innately born with. Did you see that after you had this massive breakthrough that we're calling, let's just call it self-love, that these other qualities, were they more reachable? Did life just shift for you? And if it did, how did it? Did you see things differently? Did you perceive things in a way that you never had? Were you more aware? Like, what were the ramifications of that one thing that happened that was gone called lack of self-love? And then what happened right immediately after that in the next maybe few months?
That's a great question. I would also, to clarify, say that I had more than a lack of self love. I had an inability to even believe that I was someone who could be loved, right? Because I'd never had anyone acknowledge the truth about me that mattered to me. You know, being told, oh, you're beautiful. Millions of women are told that every day, and there's usually an ulterior motive behind that, right? So I had never really been seen and validated. Um, for me, there were so many realizations and revelations that came after the freedom that I experienced. But that freedom had come in different stages and different forms along the way. This was truly a restart. Um, but I feel that it's been a continuing, ongoing process of recognizing when programming is influencing what we're saying, what we're doing, and being renewed over and over and over. I will say that I have always fed, nurtured, continued to inform that part of me where that I call our home base, our place of refuge within. Some people might call it the Holy Spirit or that place of peace. Um, and I still do to this day. I'm listening to podcasts. I'm listening to meditations. I have a meditation practice. I have many practices that return me to my center, and uh, so that I am aware of speaking, moving, observing myself while I engage and navigate life, while I engage people. So I've developed um, that knowledge that helps me to know that I am a divine spirit in a body living this human experiment, but that is not who I identify with. And that is likely the biggest revelation that came from coming over the mountain. And
What did
yes,
that
being
give you?
told I'm lovable, but really it was the process, that last 4 years that I went through, that actually makes up this superhero woman program. The many different skills and practices and realms that I had to access in order to come through, stay alive, be able to escape. Because it was very dire at that point. It was not only intolerable on every level, I was in very serious medical condition as well. So, I mean, I was told I'd be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. I was tiny. I had been starved. I was malnutritioned. I was living in terror. So that burst open so much for me that it's almost like, of course, when I came over the mountain, someone's going to tell me that I'm so lovable. Because essentially, it was a born again experience. It was a full renewal. It was a start over. It was a redo. And the redo is one of the components of being your own superhero, recognizing the redo and relating to similar circumstances with a whole different way of being. Yeah, so it's been an intricate process for me, Mark, that has these highlighted experiences for sure. And I've so fully engaged life, not that I haven't had fear, but rarely have I let fear stop me from experiencing this life to learn what I need to learn and to
Yeah,
do what I want to do.
yeah. So if you had to, if you knew that you only had another month to live, and you've got your audience, and you know who I'm talking about, the age groups, the whatever, and you had 2 minutes to give them a uh, concentrated departure of wisdom and love and encouragement, what would you say in those 2 minutes of what you want them to have, which I would imagine also parallels what you are here to deliver with your program?
Yeah, that 2 minutes is almost too long because it gives opportunity to say, oh, which part of what do I grab?
So
Um,
as concisely as then what is right there. It's because you
yeah,
don't have to think about it. I know it's right.
yeah. I suppose I would share something like, if you could see and know yourself as I see you and know you truly, and how worthy, how lovable, how brilliant, how capable, how divinely inspired you truly are. Your life would change in an instant if you could believe what I'm sharing with you. And no matter what anyone has ever said to you, whether it's society, a religious doctrine, parents, no matter what it is, whatever limiting beliefs, whatever you've been told, if someone has told you there's no hope, there's no way, I'm here to tell you that's a lie. That's false. There is always a way. There is always hope. You are capable of unlimited possibilities. And all you need to do is stay open, keep seeking, keep adjusting, keep adapting, listen to what I have to teach you, and realize that the truth of who and what you are is already whole and beautiful and pure and capable of all and all and all. And you can recreate yourself and your identification with yourself over and over and over and over. And when you find these truths, become them. Allow yourself to experiment with them like a young child. And you will find out that your life is far greater than what appears. That would be what I would share right now. And I am sharing it right now because we don't know, is this my last day? We don't know. And this is why I'm also starting next month holding a monthly live with Alaya, where women can pre-register, and we'll have a gathering over Zoom most of the time, and bring all questions, all aspects of your life about truth, about struggle, about self-actualization, everything that matters to you, together with other women, judgment-free zone, to really deeply, authentically discuss these things together and share with one another.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I hope that a lot of women want to join each month, because I'd love to get to know you, and I'd love you to better get to know me and know that it matters how you feel, and it matters that it just matters. It matters that you choose to continue to learn, experience, and realize for yourself the power that's within you, true empowerment, because look at our world. So the majority of our systems, if not all, medical, judicial, legislative, educational, none of those have equality for women. They're created by white men for white men. Women are gaslit, women are used as weapons of war. For women to truly self-actualize is to create a collaborative partnership model, a lateral model, not a domination model. Showing that model to others and our children. This is the hope of the world. So let's co-create ourselves, and therefore co-create what we're projecting into this reality as our world. That's my hope.
Beautiful.
So people can join me on this podcast. The episodes will be posted on my YouTube channel, the link down in the notes. People can join me as a private client, working with hypnotherapy and a number of different modalities to create the significant change you need in your life, in your mind, in your relationships, in your emotions, in yourself. People can join the program one-on-one, privately, or with an ongoing group in a safe container. People can join me monthly with Live with Alaya. People can volunteer for the nonprofit, Keeping All Women Safe, and become a guest on my podcast and share your stories of becoming your own superhero and what it took to do so. Yeah. And that's my invitation for today. Join me. I'm like you. If I am growing every day, coming through crisis, learning, adapting, recreating myself, so can you. Join me. And thank you, Mark.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, Alaya.
See you all later. Take care.